Bowman. Welcome to Leading in the Dark.
Thank you for having me, Nick. Excited to be here.
So you recently launched a new endeavor called Terrace Wealth. So what is Terrace Wealth and what was your path to this point?
Yes. So Terrace Wealth is a comprehensive financial planning firm, fee only. We're independent fiduciaries serving business owners, clients with all things financial. We try to picture ourselves as the family CFO, if you will. That term's used frequently in the community. And what led us here is my background. I've been a CFP for almost 10 years. In October will be the 10th year, but I've been in the industry since 2013. So it's been my background, but recently I graduated from WashU. And when through the WashU program, I heard about this thing that I knew existed, but I didn't really know much detail about ETA, Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. And that became pretty attractive to me as a potential opportunity. And then when I was thinking about it, I did an internship on a RI or a ETA accelerator, Next Gen Growth Partners out of Chicago. And I was just learning about all the models, all the ways you could go approach ETA, and ultimately what would be best for myself and my family. We recently moved from Denver back to St. Louis. So I wanted to do something local in St. Louis, and building on my experience from the RIA, I took a look at the RIA industry, and it has some of the key things that are attractive in ETA as well. Highly fragmented, mission critical services. You have, and generally speaking, advisors that are a little bit older in age. They might not have succession plans built into their business. So there's opportunity to not only build a platform, but so do what I've done in the past, run a bit RIA and manage clients and service those clients. But you could also add the layer of ETA into it where you're looking for other target opportunities to fold in and grow inorganically. So yeah, that's what we're doing.
I want to get more into your ETA journey, but also going further into your background. I know you were a veteran in the Army.
Correct.
What did you do in the Army? What was your career like there?
Yeah. Great question. Joined the Army right out of high school. I don't know if you remember the series Band of Brothers. Did you ever watch that?
Yes.
Okay. So that came out when I was in like seventh or I think eighth grade, right around eighth grade. And from then I wanted to be a airborne paratrooper. And then 9/11 hit. So that kind of further cement. That was my freshman year. That had a big impact on me and a few of my friends. And so right out of high school, like in high school, I knew I was going to join the Army. I wanted to be a paratrooper, and joined up to be an infantryman, and had orders to go to airborne school. Unfortunately, but fortunately for me, in airborne school, I got my orders pulled and it sent me to Fort Carson. So I was expected to go to the 82nd Airborne, which is an airborne unit, but they needed me to go to Iraq in jump school. They pulled my orders and I was going to go to a mechanized infantry unit. Still was able to jump, graduated. I got to go through airborne school, but the joke in the military is I'm a five jump. I've only jumped 5 times in airborne school, but then went to Fort Carson. And initially I was like frustrated because I was like, oh, I want to be a paratrooper, but I couldn't have been, I got attached to an amazing unit. And then my favorite state in the US is Colorado, and just training in nature, seeing the mountains in the background. You just, the weather there, everything about Colorado I love. And so I was blessed in that regard of getting my orders pulled and going to Colorado, but I didn't necessarily appreciate it at the time.
So you ended up deploying to Iraq?
Yes, 2 times. So my first deployment, right out of the gate, my unit was deployed once I graduated airborne school. So there's something called rear detachment. You go there for a little bit, go through a few trainings, get processed, and then deploy. Deployed, went to basic training June 29th of '05, and then got deployed to Iraq February '06. And then that was my first tour, and it stayed there till 2009, to November. Let's back up. So I deployed in February of '06, and then was there until November of '06. So that was my first tour. And then we got back at the point of the when I was in the military, you were deploy, come back, retrain, deploy, come back, retrain. So that was a cadence. And yeah, came back November of '09 or '06. And then by December of '07, we deployed again for a second time. And I don't know if you recall, it was popular at the time, the surge, if you will, if you remember hearing the term, the surge. So my second deployment was a 15-month deployment because we were in that surge. We needed to get people into Iraq to try to come up with a new strategy, if you will. And so we were in the middle of the surge and we were the last unit to get the 15-month deployment. So I was in Iraq from December of '07 to February of '09 is when I got back. So at that point in my career, I spent more time overseas than I did in the US.
So what was Iraq like for you? What was your experience?
It was good and bad. Good, just, you're over there accomplishing things as a team, and especially when you're young in the infantry, like you build that mindset where you want to deploy, like you want to be out there doing things. And then, so yeah, just building the camaraderie, being with your team, with your people, and then also getting to experience another culture was pretty great. And overall, the Iraqi culture is wonderful. Some of the nicest people ever. Knock on their door at 2 a.m. to search their house. They'll wake up, make you chai. If you knocked on my door at 2 a.m., I wouldn't be as welcoming. So you got to experience a different culture. And then obviously you're over there as an infantryman. So you know what your role and your duty is. Try to find the bad guys, capture them. And if there's conflicts out there, respond to them. And so that's part of the mission, part of the job. Believe our team, our unit did a good job in that. But then, of course, with that, things happen. You lose a few friends, and that's always hard and tough to deal with. But overall, great experience for me. I was 19 when I first went. And then when I went my second tour, I was a team leader and 20 years old. And that maturity, it really helps. It makes you grow up quick.
As a 20-year-old team leader, are there particular leadership lessons that you draw on or recall from your career in the Army that stick with you today?
Yeah. So when you're a younger team leader, so you're going to have soldiers that are going to be older than you. And for me, what I learned early from the military career is like, what is the standard? You have to get there and you have to try to exceed it, right? You want to try to set the standard, especially when you're younger. People second guess you, and especially if you fast tracked into your role where you're promoted before your peers. Not only you're in leadership positions with friends that you might have shown up to Iraq with. And so you got to earn their respect when they were your peers. And then also the age game too. Like I was a young NCO. I think my oldest soldier was 30 and I think 21 at the time when he got there, but you're a 21-year-old leading a 30-year-old. And so you have to really, what's the standard? You want to make sure you're there and trying to exceed it, and you have to live it every day. 'Cause there's less room for error, I feel like, in that circumstances. And we've had a good group, like the soldiers that I was deployed with, and they understood and we all supported each other, but you have to show up every day. And that's one of the things it's like I've been able to take into my civilian career and I think really helped me.
There's some really well-known veterans that have leadership content that they put out both for their time in service and then in the civilian sector. One of the themes that comes up a lot is when you're leading in the service, as you just described, you could be younger than the folks that you're in charge of. And the stereotype from outside is leadership in the military looks like barking orders, right? But that clearly doesn't work. It's more you have to ask your team members their ideas and get them involved in the planning or whatever's going on. So, were you able to figure that out real quick as a 20-year-old?
Yes and no. With the infantry, there's still the barking orders. So that was part of it. But I think what made our team cohesive is we would train together quite a bit and do things that maybe worked for our team that and incorporated ideas like different strategies. Like we came up with our own hand signals for when we were moving in like cities versus the traditional hand signals that you operate out in the field. And we came up with that as a team. So then we all had buy-in and we all wanted to do it. And so just little things like that. I did make mistakes early on where you do the barking of the orders and some people that works really well and then others they just shut down. So I had to learn that. Fortunately for me, the my first team leader or squad leader, I should say, was unbelievable. He was a great mentor and someone I think like I tried to model myself over like professionally in the military. And he understood what you're saying. Like he wasn't a bark order. He was like, if you messed up and you messed up bad, you're getting punished. Like you're gonna be doing push-ups and stuff like that, but then you're also gonna have a conversation about it. And that's what I think, and use it as a learning opportunity. And that's what I tried to mimic and bring in my leadership style. Being young, you're encouraged to, you got to be aggressive. Like, you have to command respect early on. And so that's where the kind of the barking orders are. Like you show up to my team, I have to show who's boss. But then learning through that, you learn that how to tailor your strategy and style to each individual where you're going to meet with them and what's going to be most effective there. Because another thing the military is really good at, if you're underperforming as a unit, you don't get to say, "Oh, it's because my soldier wasn't trained properly or wasn't doing it properly." No, that's a failure on you as a leader. And so it's your job to make sure that they're ready and trained. So you have like, how do you work best with your team? And so, yeah, initially early on, I definitely fell into the barking order kind of game, but you mature and pivot and learn to grow. And then you'll obviously have great mentors there to help guide you along the way.
I'm curious, this example that you gave of developing your own hand signals, why did you all do that? What problem were you solving?
A quick, efficient way to communicate that I don't think necessarily existed. And if it did, we weren't trained on it. So we didn't have hand signals like there's a wedge. This is traditional for a wedge, and that means spread out in an open field. But there's a time when you want to use a tight wedge when you're moving through a city across the street. We didn't have a signal for tight wedge, so we just came up with our own little hand signals, create tight wedges, incorporate like a stacking, but who do you want to be in the stack and just building those. So we really, if something didn't exist, we were just trying to create something that worked with our team to really help us move around and not have to use our voices, especially if you're doing a raid or something at night and you want to be able to move, but still communicate and do it in a quiet fashion.
I'm not trying to harp on this, but it's interesting to me. From again, the outside, there's often the stereotype of the military being very rigid, standard operating procedures, whatever it is. Somehow, again, as a 20-year-old leader, you felt the freedom to develop your own little unique procedure.
Yeah.
Where did that come at? Like, how did you know that you had the freedom to develop your own approaches?
I think that really comes down to, I would have to give credit to the leadership at the higher ranks. When we would train, you always, what went well? What'd you do great? And then what do you need to improve on? And even the things that went well, you still try to find ways to improve it. But we would, our officer, our platoon leader would facilitate the initial discussion, and squad leaders and team leaders and even the soldiers within the teams were able to voice their opinion, and we included everybody. And then so you're getting everybody's ideas and everyone's perspectives. And from there you could build it out. Okay, this works well with our team when we do it this way. So we want to incorporate these things. And I think it really starts with the communication and including the team members in the process and the ideas and the solutions. So yeah, I think created it just, we had the right leaders that created the right atmosphere for we felt empowered to make these changes, and then also results, right? If you show up with an idea and it leads to results, you're probably going to be able to continue that idea. If it falls flat on its face, you're gonna have the conversation. What were you thinking? Why did you implement it? Did this go well? And then if it didn't go well, then you're gonna have to scrap it and start from scratch.
I think that's describes it perfectly. So then you complete your military career, and I'm just assuming when you got out, that's when you started to pursue your formal educational training to achieve your CFP?
Correct. Yes. So got out. I truly, when I joined, I thought it was going to be career. I think the deployment cadence got to me. I saw my friends having fun in college. I wanted to build a family and start going down that route. And then in the military, people would make the joke. To me, I thought it was a joke because I was never like the academic kid growing up. But in the military, people were like, "Oh, Bowman, you're smart. Oh, do this, do that." Like they made me the platoon armor. So I was in charge of our platoon's equipment. I went to these various schools that I didn't elect, but people chose for me to go to. And so I developed like a sense of confidence that, hey, I can this college thing. I can do it because in high school, I wasn't, I knew I was joining the army. So that's how I went through high school, to be fair. And so I got out and I was like, all right, I'm going to approach college like I approach the military, just show up every day, study. And I didn't know exactly what I wanted to go into, but I was always interested and fascinated with investing. My dad opened me a Scott Trade account when I was 17. He allowed me to invest some of the money that I saved up through inheritance and just working as a kid. And so I was always interested in that and fascinated by it. So my dad was trying to get me to be a CPA because that's what he was. I wanted to do something different. And so I was like, okay, I have the discipline. I have the confidence now. Let's go try it. So went to St. Charles Community College initially. First semester got a 4.0, and I was like, oh, okay, this college thing's easy. Finished up there, then went to UMSL. And then at UMSL, I knew I wanted to do finance at the time. And then it was just like, okay, do I want to go the CFA route or do I want to go the CFP route? And I did an internship at a financial
What's the
planning.
difference? Explain the
Y-
difference.
Yeah, good question. CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst, that is deep into the portfolio. Where the CFP is, yes, there's aspects of investments, but it's more managing the relationship, the holistic approach, and it's the financial planning topics. Investing is a piece of it, but then there's also retirement planning, cash flow planning, insurance, estate, a tax, employee benefit reviews, like the whole comprehensive aspect and more of the relationship focus. And the CFA, while many CFAs do merge and jump sides, but CFA is really portfolio and investment focused. And I did an internship. When I first went to UMSL, I thought for sure I was going the CFA route, but then the internship explored or opened my eyes to, hey, you could be a personal wealth advisor. You can wealth management side of the table and work with clients directly, have that human interaction, but you can, it could also be technical enough. But the CFP is really a mile wide and an inch deep, where the CFA is just a deep dive into the investment portfolio side of things. And so UMSL had the CFP track. And then after my internship, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. So I followed the UMSL's CFP track, graduated, and then ultimately got a job at Moneta Group here in St. Louis, and then was able to sit for my CFP the following March and passed it. And so, yeah,
And so how long did you do that before deciding to go get your MBA?
I graduated in August of 13, got the job. So 10 years, 10 years. So in 2017, we did move to Colorado because my love for the state. In my head, I would come back to school, come back to Missouri, go to school, and then move to Colorado. But I met my wife. We went to high school together, but we didn't really start hanging out and really establishing a relationship until after I was out of the army, but I was in school. And she had her own dreams and ideas, and she kept us in St. Louis a little longer than I thought. But ultimately, it was the right time in our life. we were trying to have kids. We were struggling, and my wife was open to, let's just take an adventure, see what happens. And so then we moved to Colorado, and that was 2017. And then ultimately had our kid in 2022. And then she's okay, we're moving back. You hear that about St. Louis people. If you marry a girl from St. Louis, have kids, you'll be back. It's true.
It does seem to happen.
But I was just gonna say, I couldn't be more thrilled. Like moving back to St. Louis, this is such a great place to raise your kids, though. It really is. So I am happy to be back. And we had our second child, which we didn't think we could do naturally, but we were blessed. And you hear that all the time. People struggle, have their first child, and the second one comes unexpectedly. Yeah, that happened with us as well.
Good for you all. That's great. So when you were thinking about pursuing an MBA, why did you want to do that?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, like, my whole career, I expressed a desire to do it to like leaders, bosses, and everyone would say, you have your CFP. You really don't need to go get your MBA. And for me, it's okay. That might be true, but I love learning. And it's something I've always wanted to do. I remember my dad telling me he regretted not getting his MBA. And so it was something I always thought I would do, but life gets busy. I was always career focused and like more focused on what's best to grow the firms I was at versus what do I want to pursue for myself. And so when the opportunity, my wife, we're moving back to St. Louis, had the conversations with my business partners out in Colorado at the time. I was like, I'm going to sell my shares back because I think it would be best for the firm and for us to not try to do it remote. I didn't think it was going to work out that great. And so I had this opportunity, and it's something I've always wanted to do. My favorite clients really work with some of the most like engaging were the business owners. And I always felt like if I had an MBA, I'd be able to serve my business owner clients better as well. And so that was the opportunity. It was a now or never moment for me. It's something I always wanted to do. There was never a good time to do it. But then when we moved back to St. Louis, for me, it's like, this is the good time. Like, you're never going to have a little break. You never know what life happens. But my thought process was like, this is the perfect time to do it. You have a young kid, you go to school full time and get to be dad when you're not at school. And so for me, that was an attractive opportunity to grow as a professional, but also get a little bit more time to spend with my kid, especially in his early years.
When you went into the MBA program, was ETA already on your radar, or was that something you discovered in the program?
Yeah, completely off my radar. And it was something I discovered. Luckily, I discovered it early on, so I can take the courses and get engaged and get involved. But I really didn't I knew it existed because I would see it with our clients, people approaching them to buy their businesses. But I always assumed that was just private equity and there wasn't the other layer of activity in the market. But then I really learned about it at WashU.
Well, why don't you give the highlights of what ETA is as the concept?
Yeah. So ETA, Entrepreneurship Through Acquisition. There's many ways to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone is going to have the next big idea to create the Amazon, Facebooks, or whatever the future AI models and businesses are of the world. But you still want to be an entrepreneur. You want to be an operator. And what ETA allows is for you to go buy great businesses. They might not be the sexiest things in the world, but you could go buy a really good business and manage and operate and grow that business and get that experience without having to start something from scratch. And my opinion, it is a very attractive model. It's less risky than starting something from scratch and going out there, and you can achieve your entrepreneur dreams, if you will, and goals, but through ETA.
And you mentioned the comparison to private equity. In ETA, you're typically looking at businesses that maybe fall outside the radar of private equity, right? So could be something very small, a few $100,000 of earnings or profit to maybe a couple million, right?
Correct. So yeah. a little bit below the market where private equity likes to shop. Granted, you're starting to see private equity kind of move down into the smaller scale, but yeah, smaller firms, EBITDA or sellers discretionary earnings, however you want to call it, could be ultimately it's the searcher's choice, right? What's that number for you that sounds attractive? Is it 200 or is it a million? And there's a lot of ways to go about buying these businesses too. And with the SBA route is very attractive. You could also go raise funds. So there's opportunity to buy some smaller businesses that are still great businesses that might not be acquisition targets for private equity or other investors.
And so what was it about the ETA model that really attracted you from having never heard it to then diving into it? And if you want to say it was my presentation in your class, I will accept that answer.
Yeah, that was certainly one because, like, it's good to hear the stories of people who've done it well, and have done it successfully, and hear the challenges and get that story so you could start thinking about it and saying, "Hey, is this right for me? Are these opportunities?" And what initially attracted me to it is seeing some of my business owners were the happiest and most fulfilled clients. And also, like being a business owner prior, like when I was a partner at the firm at Aspen, your business is your baby too. So you get a sense of pride and joy behind it. And so for me, that was attractive. It's you get to run a business, you get to make meaningful impacts on people, your community, your own life, and just seemed like a great opportunity. There's obviously the economic factors there, the demographic factors, a lot of transitioning wealth businesses that don't have succession plans. So there's an opportunity there. So it seemed like it's a great time to do it. It's a great way to be an entrepreneur. And then Wash U's community has been unbelievable. People coming into our classes and speaking, going to happy hours, having conversations, and the community itself is just fun and exciting and very supportive. So it's fun to be a part of that.
So one of the classes that you took was Brian Wolf's class on ETA. He was on our podcast a few episodes ago. Obviously a great guy, very knowledgeable about this space. So I imagine that he had a big impact on you in his class.
Yes, absolutely. So in his class, that's the first like deep dive I had into the ETA space. And I walked up to him after one class. I'm like, I really am excited about this. What's the best way to get more exposure to it? And Brian was great, incredibly generous with his time, willing to have conversations. He put me in connection with NextGen, where I was able to secure an internship. And he's always willing to chat, always there, not only generous with his time, but like also his network. If he knows someone that he could put you in contact to where he thinks he's going to help you, he'll do that. And having him to just go from, hey, I'm interested, I'd like to learn more, how do I do it, to, oh, I'm starting to become serious. Can you help me talk through this and think this out and find any blind spots I might not be thinking? So being able to use him as a resource and him being willing to be such a great resource has just been unbelievable.
And is it correct that he's involved in starting Terrace Wealth with you?
Yes, he's my partner in Terrace Wealth, and we're very fortunate. Another Wash UMB grad, Felipe, who is a CFA, he's going to be joining our team as well. But yeah, Brian and I are partners in Terrace.
So what's the story of Terrace Wealth then? We've talked about ETA a lot. Is this something you acquired or something you've decided to just start from the ground up?
We're going to start from the ground up as I think to really be good, solid home for a firm, having a base, having a track record and a process and putting out your values, how you think about client relationships, how you manage it, your philosophy, building that out ahead of time and having an AUM base and track record, like I mentioned, I think puts like a legitimacy behind it where now we can go to advisors who might be looking to transition, might be looking to sell. We have our story, we have who we are, and now we could go to advisors and see if there are some out there that fit with us from a values, a culture perspective, because that's going to be important. The way we do things, the way we treat clients, the way we treat employees, the way we want to be viewed and operate in our communities. So for us, we've had that back and forth. We just go try to find something. I have experience running an RIA and growing one. And why don't we try to, after some conversations we've had, why don't we try to build a little bit of a foundation and of a base and then use that to go out and have some credibility and try to identify the right seller and partners as we look to grow inorganically.
That's a really interesting approach that I haven't heard before. So can you tell me just the next layer of that decision making of why you believe so strongly that building your core business adds this level of credibility to presumably make you more successful in follow-on acquisitions?
Yeah. So I think that really comes to what are we trying to build, like the long term strategic vision. And within being a client centric focused firm, I think you want to have that established ahead of time. And by having that established, we're going to have some potential sellers or people who might want to come on board or team up, whatever that looks like. Some people are going to self select out because they're going to identify from the get go that we're not the right fit. And I'd rather have that happen because the values or culture might not align for whatever reason, good or bad. Not everyone, is going to have the same approach and same philosophy as us. So by having that, we can really identify who we are, what's important to us, and what are our mission and values. Use that to try to find the right partners because Brian and I aren't necessarily thinking of this short term. We're really trying to build something with a long term focus. Brian's younger, I'm younger. We have some time. We're both very eager to work and want to do this for a while. And so I think making sure we identify what we're trying to build and then starting out and building that culture and getting that in place, I think really helps us try to find the right partners or acquisition targets, if you will, when we do look to grow inorganically. And then also like a credibility, like another thing, advisors, their book of business is their baby. They've built it, they've served it. If it was me, if I was passing it off, I want to know my clients are in good hands. And I think if we have that A base, we can show our process to the advisor. We have good client relationships that also it's okay. This isn't just a money thing. I know my clients are going to be taken care of. They have the right team. And I think that will help with that conversation as well.
It just occurred to me, how are these types of businesses valued to transition them in ownership? So I know very little about this industry, and you have this large asset under management of these clients' investment. What's the valuation process to sell one of these?
Yeah, it's usually a multiple of revenue is the most common. So 2 to 3 times revenue. With everything, it seems like those are starting to tick up. When I first joined, 2 times revenue is like the ballpark. But now it's in between the 2 and 3 times. And then you're starting to see some firms getting acquired at higher multiples. And obviously, the larger the firm, the bigger the multiple you can get. But yeah, it's usually a multiple of revenue. There are some shops out there. Aspen, we went through the conversation when I was thinking about moving back. Do we sell? Is that something we can do to a larger firm? They were looking more of a multiple of EBITDA, but generally speaking, it's a multiple of revenue.
So in the literature on Terrace Wealth that you put out, but also in your social information that you're putting out about this endeavor, you highlight the fee only aspect of it. So it seems really important that you're commenting on fee only. So what does that mean and why is it so important?
So, yes, fee only, what it means is the only way we can be compensated from our clients is charging them fees. We can't get commissions from selling a product, whether it be like a mutual fund, an investment strategy. insurance, or an annuity. So we can't get compensated on that. We will certainly recommend those things when appropriate to our clients. We'll be advising on them. However, by not being compensated, it allows you to remove that potential conflict of interest. And for me, that is truly important. There are a lot of good advisors that work in the fee-based model where they charge a fee under assets under management, but then they can also still be compensated through insurance and other products. There's still great advisors that are under that model. But for me, I wanted to, from the gate, say, we are fee only. We are truly independent. When we're giving you advice, that's the advice that we truly believe is in your best interest. We're not going to make any more money. And quite frankly, we're not going to make money at all recommending any of these products to you. But I think it's important because some people are like, "Oh, do I need this much insurance?" Because then they get the bill and they're like, "Oh, I wonder if my advisor is selling me more insurance than I need." If we're recommending insurance to a client, because we truly believe that's the amount they need, and we're not going to be compensated. We won't receive any commission, like kickbacks, referral fees, anything like that. And so I just think it allows us a level of independence, transparency, and then importantly, like when you're in the fee only model, you are a fiduciary 100% of the time, like through every aspect of it. And so for us, that's important to always be legally liable. We have to work in our client's best interest is effectively. And I want us to be under that standard 100% of the time. And there's advisors shops out there that are fee based that operate under that standard, but I just wanted to make it explicitly clear, like this is how we operate.
So if I'm on the buying side of these services as a potential client and I'm evaluating a couple different firms, is it easy for me to uncover this, like to figure out if somebody truly is fee only, or do I really have to dig deep to figure out if somebody is getting compensated separately on the products that they're recommending?
Yeah. So one good question is to ask if they're fee only. Generally, fee only firms will use that as part of a marketing tool. They want it to be known because they're actively selecting into that model. And so I think they will be mentioning it somewhere in their website or in the conversations. But it's always a good question, I think, to ask any advisor you're hiring, how are you compensated? And I think it's a fair question. And I don't think advisors should care to, I feel like it's our duty to answer that question to our clients. And so one question is, how are you compensated? And then do you operate in that capacity all of the time? One nice thing about a CFP, Certified Financial Planner designation, is while they might be fee only or fee based, they are legally obligated through the CFP board, through the board, I guess not legally, but through the CFP board, they have to operate as a fiduciary 100% of the time. So that's another thing you could look out for is, am I working with a certified financial planner?
So how long have you been at this with Terrace Wealth and how's it going?
So the ideas started kicking around in March. We officially operated a business like filed with the state of Missouri April 28th. March or May 6th, we filed with the Secretary of State for our compliance. And then I graduated May 12th. So you're just trying to navigate everything while trying to graduate and be dad. It's been fun. It's been challenging. It's going well though. It's just really getting the ducks in a row. That way, once the state of Missouri approves us, and hopefully that's coming soon, we're very excited. I know they're looking at our case, but hopefully they'll approve us and then we could be off to the races. It's thrilling. It's exciting. Obviously, it's something new. So there's a little bit of jitters there, but I've done it before. I think we have a great team to really get this going and knock it out of the park. So the rest is just execution.
That's awesome. Good for you and congratulations. You did the thing. You had the idea, you saw it through, you've launched it. Sure, there's a lot ahead of you in the future, but do you feel the sense of accomplishment on getting to this point?
Absolutely. Yes. Like do I want to get my MBA? I was a little hesitant. Is it needed? But look where it landed me. And when I was like thinking, what am I going to do post grad school? yes, I could go back to being an advisor. I could look at other jobs, but I know I'd always kick myself if I didn't take this chance. And then when being able to partner with Brian, Felipe as well, having that opportunity, it's like the pieces are falling into place and I'm just going to be more thrilled to get going. So yeah, I very proud, excited, all of it, all the emotions.
That's awesome. What a really cool story from your whole background, being in the Army, getting your education, getting some practical experience under your belt, and then going and launching your own thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, we're thrilled. We're excited.
I want to stay in touch and hear more about this journey. Maybe we connect in a year and see how things are developing for you.
I'd love that. I appreciate the opportunity. Again, thank you for coming to our class. It's those real world stories with the challenges you hear, and it's okay. I could do this too. So without the community, the class, the community, I don't know if I would have taken this jump. So I want to say thank you to you as well.
No, that's great. I really appreciate your time and telling your story, Ryan.
Yep. Thank you, Nick.